Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we are going to have a look at Plex Media Server. I've been playing around with Plex for the better part of a month, and there are some things about it that I really love, and there are some things about it that definitely not so much. So we'll go ahead and talk about what my experience has been, how I installed it on my server, how we're using it, what you can use it for, a little bit of a comparisons between that and Kodi, and maybe a few other odds and ends as well. So first and foremost, what is Plex? Well, it is a media server. All it does is it will utilize your library, or in more recent years, I think it was only about a year or two ago, they are now a full-fledged streaming system as well. So you can use your server to stream movies, music, podcasts, and things from their individual servers, or anything that you have in your individual server. It's really designed to be put together with their servers so that you can go ahead and put all your media libraries in there, and then you could actually have the ability to share that content with friends and family in such a way that you give them access to it and they will be able to stream directly off of it. This is also a pretty good way for you to stream access to your own personal files without having to do a whole lot of complicated setup. They do make it pretty easy. Now, of course, as I talk about on this channel a lot, every time that you have a little bit of convenience, you end up giving up a lot as well. And that is definitely something that we have to keep in mind. All right, so in this case, they do have a privacy policy that I'm not particularly excited about. And so I am a little bit leery about creating an account, playing with an account through there, attaching my media server to their individual servers, and possibly allowing them to see the things that I actually have in my personal library collection. Why am I concerned about that? Who knows, right? No, there's nothing bad in there. But nevertheless, the fact is that it does make things easy. It does carry with it some of the risks, and you do give up a lot of individual data. Now, how does this compare to Kodi? Well, Kodi is pretty much merely a player where you add extensions to it to allow the various functions that you want. You can get functions for streaming services. You can get some functions for movies. Some of those are legal. Some of those are illegal. And that's really one of the places you have to be more cautious of in Kodi. Is not everything is specifically legal, and you have to be aware of what you're downloading, how you're downloading it, and what you are doing with it. And that is something to keep in mind. Fundamental level, Plex itself is easier to use, but I think Kodi is definitely more extensible. I personally way prefer Kodi over Plex for utilizing my own media collection. In my personal situation, I have a centralized NAS. That's the one computer that's always on around here. That serves all of my media files, and then any device through either Kodi or VLC can access anything on that server, and I can stream any content from inside. If I have to be going on a big trip or something, it's simple. I turn on a VPN, and I get the exact same functionality. I don't have to worry about Plex's privacy policies. Plex, though, has an advantage that in the recent years, they've added streaming services to it. So you can actually now go into Plex on your own server or other places, I'll talk about that, and literally watch free movies, perfectly legal. It's simply an ad-supported platform that they have developed and paid for. So there are indeed some pretty good movies on it as well. They also have movies, they have TV shows, web shows, they do have a lot of streaming TV, and unlike some of the other apps, it will actually show you, hey, what's coming up next. You can kind of plan your time out around it. You can know when to catch on, and really it does have a lot of advantages. So let's go ahead first and have a look at Plex. Now, this is running on my server, which I am using a Raspberry Pi. In order to test how it functions with my own personal media, that's the Plex server. What I did, you'll notice when you first get into it, it says this is unclaimed and not secure. It's perfectly secure. You have to get into my network for this to be not secure. But it is an unclaimed server, and if this were available to be reached on the internet, anybody could come to the server and claim it. So if you are putting something on, for example, a Linode server, you want to make sure you have a Plex account and you secure that server right away so nobody steals your server. All right. But what I did is I added some music to it. So if I head on over, don't show this again. You can see that we have some music in here. Now it's after a month of having this thing on, it's still not downloading information, even though I've actually asked it to. So I don't have any information unless it happens to be in the media folders. This is something that Kodi does a whole lot better. Nearly everything in here, Kodi actually already has things for. I threw in a One Wonder Years episode in here just to test how media works. The big advantage of this, it is a lot simpler to get set up than Kodi is, but it does have the limitations about I actually had to manually move everything over. Is it possible to do it without manually moving everything over on a server? It is, but again, it's way more complicated. Whereas in Kodi, I have the ability to go in and specify a network share. On this, I can't, which means I'm going to have to come in here, create an fstab file manually, or I don't have to manually, but I have to establish a mount on root, and then I can access the media shares. But there's no instructions to do that. You pretty much have to know how to do that. Why haven't I? Because Kodi is way better to use than this is. But for watching movies, I can come over here and I can watch a variety of movies. They have some movies that I've wanted to see. They've had some movies that I wish I didn't see. But they do have a lot of movies available. They are legal and they are free. And the most beautiful part about this, I have not signed up for any account. Now, I will say that I did create a Plex account on a Tutanoa email address because I'm testing out the Tutanoa server in addition to testing out Plex. I said, hey, there's the perfect place. Let's test out all these different services on this email address. Well, I may or may not actually have it. So I went ahead and created a Plex account just to be sure. And to be honest, the privacy policy makes me not want to use it. So, but with that, you can go ahead and get logged in and it really doesn't do anything different. Now, do you have to be running your own server for this? Absolutely not. Publicly available. You can go to app.plex.tv and you can come over here without logging in. You can actually watch all the same content. So if you are looking for a place to watch some content without being logged in, you can go ahead and do that. For some reason, it's still logged into my account. I'm not sure why that is. I do. I logged into this just to test how the login functions work. But you do not have to be logged into the account. The URL is app.plex.tv, just from any web browser that can play DRM content. Ad blockers, they'll block some of the ads, not all of the ads, so be aware of that. But nevertheless, I'll watch a couple of ads in exchange for some free movies, particularly since I do not have to create an account. As I mentioned, you can go down into the live TV. You can see the variety of different TV shows. You can see what's currently playing, what's coming up. So you have a variety of things you can see over here. So in all honesty, this is an excellent service, but if you don't have a Raspberry Pi and you're looking for these types of features without an account, and as long as you don't want to mess around with your own personal media, app.plex.tv, do it for free without an account. Who knows? Maybe they'll add the requirement for an account later. I don't know. But as of right now, they do not have that requirement. So that's kind of how this guy works. Overall, I do like what I'm seeing here. Now let's shift gears here. What if you would like to install Plex on your own individual server? So in this case, I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi 4B. And it works great. I've never seen it max out the memory. There's a variety of different guides. Here's one here, Pi My Life. This guy here, just kind of walk through the steps. It's going to give you a lot of information. They have a few extra videos. I'm not going to do a full video on how to actually set it up, but I will actually going to cover a few steps at the end here, which I will post on the website as well. So recommended Pi 2, 3, or newer. You need an SD card, power supply, Ethernet cord. I'm using Ethernet cord. You can do a wireless as well. And you'll use the keyboard and mouse to get it all set up. In my case, I'm just using a simple SD card. I have not mounted any network shares, although who knows, maybe I might actually do that just to test it, and maybe we will do a few more videos on this. And then I don't actually bother hooking up a keyboard or mouse or anything else to it once it's running. I just SSH into it and shut it down manually when I'm done with it. And I don't run it all the time, just when I'm doing something. So basically just get in here, and I set mine up by installing the Raspberry Pi OS, formerly Raspbian. Now it's called Raspberry Pi OS, and I just set it up without a desktop environment. Do the update, do the upgrade, and then simply walk through the steps here. And you can find a variety of these different guides. It's basically installing a few extra things that you need, and then install Plex Media Server. That's all there is to it. The problem that we have once we do this is that you only can access it with your IP address. So in this case here, 192.168.1.100:32400/web. That's what you have to do to access it. And so I was able to find some ways around so we could actually get that guy fixed. And so let's go ahead and walk through how I got that fixed in case you do want to run this on your server and you want to set it up with a really nice either a domain name or at least just make the IP address alone enough to get to it. Now, in my case, I have a pfSense router, so I can do some local DNS work. In other words, I can, on a global network level, I can say, in my case, I go to plexserver.com, which doesn't really exist, but on my local network, it does. When I go to plexserver.com without any of the ports, without any of the slashes, anything else, it lands right on my desktop. How did I accomplish that? Well, these are my steps. So first, of course, I set up and configured Plex following any of the guides. Next, we had to install Apache 2. So this is going to give us a folder and the ability to run some HTTP proxy protocols. We need to enable the following Apache mods. We need proxy HTTP, proxy balancer, and I'm not sure exactly what this one is. Lib method by requests. I'm not exactly sure which one that is, but that's what I need to do. We need to enable mod rewrite, which is installed, but it's not enabled when you first install Apache. Now, I followed this gentleman's guide here, Matt Coney Bear, and I basically just added on to what he did a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our default Apache file, which is 000-default, and on Debian, that's going to be in Etsy Apache 2 sites available. You're going to find that, and then you're going to add this to the file. So just copy this guy and paste it in. Note that this is not the IP of your Pi. It is the local IP. So you have to basically pass a proxy that anything that lands on your Raspberry Pi is going to go right into 127.0.0.1 and the port. So that's what you have to do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a rewrite to add /web to anything so that now setting in the proxy, preserving the host, and doing the URL rewrite, I type in plexserver.com. It will automatically pass through to the port and then land on /web no matter what I do. So it always is going to work. Restart Apache, which is going to be service Apache 2 restart. And then I'm using my router to redirect the domain. You could likewise use that with a hosts file. And that's pretty much all you need to do. I do have a note here, update the host name in the Raspberry config to match the desired domain. That's going to make some things nice and easy. So do those simple steps there, and you'll land right on plexserver.com on my individual setup, and I can watch movies, TV shows, podcasts, news, anything else, or anything that I've added to my server here. This guy is secured, even though it tells you it's not secure. It's perfectly secure because nobody's getting inside of my network. If you get into my network, I'm more screwed than you being able to access my Plex server, okay? So there is that. My overall take on Plex, overall, I like it. However, there are some things about it I'm not a fan of. The privacy policy is frightening enough that I don't want to create an account on it. I probably won't create an account on it for any personal use, but as of right now, you can access all this information for free. I find that the interface for accessing your media, it could be better, it could be worse than Kodi, but really, this for me is something for me to watch something I'm going to stream, and Kodi is going to be something that I use for watching anything that is local to my network. So overall, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Plex, having played with it for a while, although it does have some serious advantages that, in my opinion, are worth having a look at. If you're not technical enough to get it all set up, or you don't care to get up your own server set up, just head on over to their version, which is app.plex.tv, and you'll be able to view that information there. So there's my take on Plex, having looked at it for a while. Let me know your thoughts. Do you like Plex? Have you used it? Have you not used it? Does this inspire you to try it or not to try it? Let me know your thoughts on all those in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.